headspace off. Dang it.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. I am Keith Riddle here as always with my co-host Jordan Tampien. And today we're living in a crazy world.
It is a little crazy world. I feel like it doesn't make any sense. So I don't even know if it's crazy, but every time I try to make sense of it, something else comes out that makes no sense.
Well, I think crazy and nonsensical.
I think they go right in line the more I keep figuring out. And then I'm like, maybe I'm just crazy after all of that. I'm like, maybe I'm just seeing this glass way differently than every person, because you're sitting there making a decision. And let's use city council, for example, right? And you're entertained. We'll talk about a few of them, but like you're sitting there looking at them and then they come to it's like 1 + 1 = 4 = 5 = 7. It's like everybody has a different version of what that end result is from the same set of facts. So we have a housing crisis. We have tenant issues. We have a bunch of those, and how they go about it. They obviously think it works, right? I don't think anybody on our council or anywhere is not, or on any council, is thinking their plan wouldn't work.
Well, I guess that's the question, right? That's the $1 million question is, if you look around at our city or a lot of these other cities and you watch the decisions they're making, I guess that is the question, is like, is what they're proposing actually going to work, or do they believe it's going to work? And I think the skeptic side of things also says that they're making decisions intentionally that they know won't work to make certain things happen that they want to have happen.
Yeah.
Right. I just watched an interview last week with the mayor of Seattle, and they were talking about homelessness, right? And they were talking about basically the housing first concept, right? Mm-hmm. So in Washington State and Seattle as well, they've come up with this initiative, this housing first initiative with to combat homelessness, is to basically give homeless people housing first, above all else, because that will help curb homelessness. But I think that the reality of the situation is what other people are screaming at the top of their lungs is like, well, why are you focused on housing first instead of like treatment first? Right. Being that a large amount of the homeless population has other issues such as like mental health issues or drug addiction issues, why are we not requiring counseling or requiring drug treatment before somebody gets housing?
Yeah.
And I think that there's just two different parties right now. Right. One party says like homelessness is an issue, but the vast majority of homelessness is drug addiction, mental health issues, and things that need to get solved for the homelessness issue to get solved. But the mayor of Seattle came right out and she said the problem with homelessness right now is the housing crisis. Mm-hmm. And it's it's the affordability of housing and it's the affordability of rent that leaves people in a position of homelessness. Yeah. And I think you kind of have those two parties battling it out right now. I think fundamentally, though, it's a combination of both. And the big question is, do you require people that you're going to give subsidized housing to, free housing or highly subsidized housing to, do you require them to get treatment or get help as well? That's leading to other things that's causing homelessness.
I mean, I ran low-income portfolios when I got started. I mean, the issue is you put somebody that's not well into one of those units, it creates even more damage. And I think that's one of the harder parts, is that it's a cart and the horse argument, but I think the hard part is anytime government gets involved, it gets pretty expensive to do it. And then the allocation shift, like in California, it was almost $800,000 per person. I was like, I'm pretty positive you gave me $800,000 to help one human out.
Right.
We could figure this thing out. And it seems like it's there. But I think it was helpful interviewing a bunch of our politicians and stuff. Understand it's not as easy as A to B sometimes, because there's different measures or things you have to do. But what makes it more difficult, and the things we've talked about homelessness, we speak about it, we do all the parts, but I think the other big ones are what the impact on business and stuff. Jerry Dicker and Gavin Newsom wrote a pretty good article in The Spokesman that talked about kind of that side of it. It's like, look, we can identify these issues, but one main one now is you're creating policies that businesses can't operate in.
Yeah.
You're making it really difficult between the taxes. Like, so now there's a parking tax downtown, which I was vehemently against. I'm like, why don't we have free parking downtown? Like, how are we attracting people down to the core? Then you have anybody who's like, you know what? One way to create wealth in this world is go be a landlord. I don't know. I question some of that now, and I'm big on real estate, but like just with the rules and regulations, if you don't have that system behind you. And I think what's really difficult now is then you have the state of Washington who's like, we don't care about the rich people, which is fine. You could have that argument if you want to, but the reality is that's where most of the tax revenue comes from.
Yeah.
So it's this weird argument of like where you're like biting what's that saying? Biting the hand that feeds you.
so to speak,
right?
yeah,
In a lot of ways. And then where's that burden gets passed? It gets passed to businesses that can't hang on anymore. It gets passed to property taxes. It's going to get passed to something, or prices
they have
go
to
up
generate
to
the
accommodate.
revenue, right? So I went to a talk a couple weeks ago that STCU put on, like Frank Talks or whatever, and they had some lobbyists there that were talking about government, or the Washington State's annual budget is about $84 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And currently we're facing a $17 billion shortage, like deficit in our budget. And this last first quarter, they voted to increase spending $2 billion. So it's like, how does this work?
I wish I
Your
could do that. I
budget's
wish I could do
$84
that.
billion and you're $17 billion shy, and you just voted to increase spending $2 billion.
Yeah, you're just kicking a can. You're kicking a can instead of dealing with the hard part of it. I think that's what I'm more fearful of, is you just put all this investment, infrastructure work into an area, and then we don't support the thing we did, right? And I think that's my biggest fear, is that when we did Brick West, for example, the city was like, hey, we're going to turn it into a parking lot, or kind of what we have now, just a little different version. And it was like, hey, we're going to allocate a maintenance budget of $100 a month to take care of it. I'm like, great. So we spend tens of millions, or whatever it was, millions, to build it, and then we don't maintain it.
Right.
And that's what I feel like we just did to downtown.
Right.
We spent hundreds of millions, and then it's like, well, it'll be fine. And then that burden just gets shifted to the people whose livelihood relies on it. And I think it's super easy to then be like, I was out in Liberty Lake helping a client look at a house, first time in a while. I'm like, it's beautiful out here. Like, it's clean. It's super clean.
No
it's super easy.
No panhandling.
And all of a sudden you're just providing, and then all of a sudden you pass these millionaire taxes. So then all of a sudden I drove through Post Falls. Super clean, super nice. And it's just, people forget we have these competing structures in our backyard.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing they talked about too, I think somebody raised the question at that talk about, like, well, what happens when all these companies start leaving, right? Like Boeing starts to leave, or Amazon starts to leave. And really the response from the speakers there, the two lobbyists, were that they don't really believe they'll leave. I mean, that's kind of, they're like literally not addressing the question, because they're like, well, it's no one's leaving yet, or they're not going to leave. And so it's one of those things where they're kind of sticking their head in the sand too over that. It's like, it's like anything. I think you go into, a trip with your friends for vacation, or you start a business. It's a wise decision, I would say, to have like plan A, plan B, and plan C, right? Like, here's the plan. Plan A is, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Plan B is, if that doesn't work out, we have this plan. They don't seem to be creating any sort of like plan B or C, or even acknowledging that like what they're doing might not work the way that they think it's going to work. And it's like, well, what happens when, and it's not even what happens when, because we're already in the situation. We're in it.
Yeah.
We have a $17 billion deficit in our budget.
Yeah.
And you just increase spending $2 billion.
I mean, there's only a couple ways. You got to increase taxes.
Well, that is the
property
only
tax,
way, right? That is the only way the government makes money.
Or cut money, right? Or cut things. And that's the hard part, is like, we just don't do a good job at cutting. So they're not going to cut. So then as a business owner, you start looking at real estate. Why do I love real estate? I love the depreciation offset. I love kind of the appreciation, the hedge against inflation. But that hedge only works if your expenses don't outpace inflation.
Right.
Like, what happens if property taxes, utilities, which just got another bump, and data centers aren't going to help that? What if all of those outpace the inflation? So rent flatlines, which it did.
Right.
And insurance goes up 20%.
Yep.
Property taxes went up 9.8%.
Yep.
I mean, all of a sudden, that best part of this asset. So then why, if you could go put it into one of the many AI IPOs coming out and let it just sit there and not have that risk, do you take that risk? And I think that's what used to make real estate stand out a ton, makes it super interesting now.
Right.
And then the cost of labor keeps going up. That's my biggest fear, is going to be the cost of labor. Is that to maintain these, you're going to be paying.
And I guess that to me is the biggest aha of like the whole thing, is like, how can they not see that in the sense of, if what you want, like, and we'll just kind of patch these things together, but if you're facing a housing crisis, and this housing crisis and affordability of housing and rents is creating homelessness, right? Now you have problem number 2. And so what you want is more housing and you want more housing that's affordable.
Mm-hmm.
But yet across the board, every metric that creates that housing is up.
Yeah.
Like insurance is up, utilities are up, the cost of labor is up, the cost of materials is up, right? So to me, I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon or anything to figure this out. Like the decisions that you're making to spend more money and not cut expenses, and the increase across the board in almost every aspect of what it takes to create housing is going up, and yet you're screaming for more affordable housing.
Yeah. Or pinning more on a developer or on a landlord or landowner to pick up the tab.
But the only way they can do that is if they increase rents
and it's because
or increase the cost of the end product, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
and I think that's the structure that we're faced with. And so then you're trying to stare down the barrel of that gun of, okay, what does that look like? Take the good stuff. Great natural resources. I like the proximity, good location, no crazy natural outside of forest fire stuff, but like really good place to live. Quality of life's high.
Yeah.
Issue though goes to, okay, what happens when those jobs do move? They loved it here because we had no,
like
they're
Boeing's
moving.
Already gone.
I mean, the number of people I just hear moving across our state line that were higher tax paying, contributing members of our community.
Right.
And they're going to build an affinity for whatever community you're in to do it. And I think my hope is that we can figure that out sooner than later, because I think that's the biggest thing facing it will be, how do you address when that deficit that we think was going to be solved by taxing all these people, there's zero.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that you're banking on
the budget counts on.
The budget counts on, and you're banking on collecting the revenue from these new tax laws you're creating, and yet you're creating an exodus of people who are supposed to pay those taxes. Correct. Who will not exist. By the time that tax law takes effect, where will they be?
Exactly.
My assumption is not in the state of Washington.
No.
Or a bulk share of them. So now you missed the mark there too, right?
Yeah.
You're failing to cut expenses, you're increasing spending, you're running at a deficit. You say the solution is to create this new tax, but that doesn't happen overnight. So then by the time that new tax is created, the people that tax was meant to collect that revenue from don't exist.
Yeah.
So now what?
Exactly. And I mean, then that's where you have to look at forcing a tax. So then they're talking about a new tax policy that decreases your property tax if you're an owner, multifamily. Oh, sounds good on that face. Increasing your tax on vacant land and things that don't have a functional use there. Because it's super cheap right now because land base is usually pretty small. And so there's things like that. But I think the big ones, then you hear talk of like taxing unrealized gains. Like, does that count your home?
Well, yeah, and
that's how farmers lose their farms. You had it passed down, but now there's a tax assessed to it, and there's an unrealized gain.
Well, so you're taxed on what you earn,
yep,
right? You're taxed when you spend,
yep,
and you're taxed on what you owned,
yep,
or what you own, right? And now they're proposing taxing unrealized gains on things you own, right?
Yeah. So, and then it's like, okay, well, maybe I just go work for the man again. Punch the clock and do it. Then I'm like, but you're taxed at 40% there.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the hard part. There's only one real way out. And so I still love back to all that. I still like real estate as a play. I think it makes sense, but I think you have to be much more cautious on those expense assumptions than you used to have to be. And
in any small business right now or mid-sized business, I think that one of the things that's opened my eyes to is as a business owner or an entrepreneur, when you're going to start things, you have to now have a line item question kind of on your initial checklist of like, what sort of disruptions or things can come along in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years am I not thinking about, right? Because you can make the perfect business plan today for any segment of the market, but are you baking in or are you thinking about like government disruption of that?
No.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, you think it's simple, right? The concept of an IRA is you put your money in there, tax defers till you're 60, whatever now it is, 65, 66. But the assumption is that the tax rate is less.
Right.
When you actually take it out. When I lived in London, it was 60%.
You might as well pay it on the way in.
That's what you know what it is.
Right.
It's a known on the way in.
Instead of it's growing tax deferred and then you got to take it out. Well, the taxes are 3 times higher than they would have been in there. You might as well have paid it when you put it in there.
Yeah, but that's the assumption. And you just hope that when you go to take it out, and I'm like, man, damned if you do, damned if you don't. There's obviously a way forward.
You didn't really put that money in tax deferred, right? Because you paid income tax when you made the money. So you already got tax to make the money to put it into account that gross tax defers.
I think you actually get a deduction for those ones for the regular IRAs. The Roth IRAs you pay the tax, but then you get it out tax free.
Right.
But it's just hard. I'm looking at like how do you navigate through? And ours, so we're streamlining a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So getting a little bit more of, not that we're letting people go, but like when it goes, we're just more wary of like filling the spot versus seeing if we can't just be more efficient at what we're doing. Because we're trying to price in some of those pieces as well. Like I can only charge property management fees so high on somebody. I can only charge so much for a beer.
Yeah.
Right. There's levers you can't just keep. There's no unlimited ceiling, but it seems like there's an unlimited ceiling on expenses. It's like, okay, now I got to take this into account and that into account. And I think what's really hard, somebody explained it best, like we're just sitting in a K curve. So like what Rob Brewster said when he did his interview, where he's like, difference of 08 is everyone felt the pain.
Yeah.
Now we're sitting in a K curve where some businesses are thriving, some people's accounts, because the stock market was thriving.
Right.
And they're looking at these businesses like, why aren't you succeeding? I did 10 years ago. And I'm like, well, it's not the same. Like, It is literally not the same. The employee's harder. The regulations are by far harder. The government needs money, so they're looking even closer at everything to find ways to get more. And so I think that becomes a super interesting one, especially as you talk about buying real estate. And why that matters is that investors are a big chunk of what make up our movement of real estate, our availability to provide affordable housing. But we just took over one management contract where we were able to rent it for $3,000, but his payment's $4,500.
Yeah.
Because he just bought it. And we're not talking about a mansion.
No.
Talking about a normal house, that's with some HOA dues, property taxes, insurance, and his mortgage.
Yeah.
That doesn't count our fee.
Nope.
That doesn't count if one issue comes up.
Or vacancy. Like I just sent an electrician out. It's $250 to get him to the site. I mean, we're not using that anymore, but still, one person trying to get somebody there. And so what is your thoughts on I don't think it fundamentally changed. I feel like real estate faces pressure, but what are your thoughts on like how that impacts how you look at real estate in your own portfolio? For me, that's been a big question on kind of my mind and my heart lately, because I do a lot of coaching and consulting of business owners and real estate agents as well. And a lot of them are talking to me or have in their business plan or hopes or dreams or aspirations in the future to become an investor, to stack real estate properties as an investment tool. And I've been wrestling a lot with it lately because it's one of those things where I don't know that I could advise an agent today to build or start a real estate portfolio the way that I did it and have it even spit out remotely the same result, if at all, right? And so that's one of those things where you're really starting to rethink the game, because the hard part with that specific market segment, but you can look at a bunch of different, but they're changing the rules as you play. Yeah. So imagine like going and playing a soccer game or a football game. And it's like, you go there with a game plan, right? Like two football teams are going to play on Sunday, and they're both creating a game plan around the players that they have and their strengths and weaknesses, and the other team's players that they have and their strengths and weaknesses, and the rules of the game. Yeah. Now imagine like in the middle of the first quarter, they just blow the whistle and they're like, hey, we're just changing the rules. Now a first down is 12 yards instead of 10. Yeah. And then everybody on the field's looking at each other like, well, what do you mean? It's always been 10 yards. You get 10 yards, you get a first down. And like, nope. We just decided to make a unilateral decision that's outside of anybody's control, right? Yeah. The gaming commissioner says that now a first down is 12 yards. Well, now both teams might have to pivot or shift, but like your whole game plan starts kind of going out the window because and then it's like, what happens at halftime when they blow another whistle? And they're like, yeah, now a touchdown's only 5 points. Yeah. Well, you could be down by 7 at half and thinking, well, we're 1 score away from a tie. Well, not now. Yeah. Now you're down more than 2 scores, and like a field goal is 1. You know, and it's like, but that's the reality of kind of this game that we're playing in real estate, because you're like, hey, listen, I started this journey and I made my game plan and I made my business plan based on the rules of the game, right? And not to cheat the rules and to play fair. I want to pay my taxes. I want to, pay my property taxes. I have to have insurance for my properties. I want to make sure that everybody's covered if an accident happens. But they start shifting all these rules. And so then it's one of these things where same thing. It's like, well, I played this game on the basis of the rules that like if a tenant didn't pay as a landlord, that you could evict the tenant for non-payment. They're changing these rules, right? Yeah. So it's like all of a sudden it's like it makes it really hard to make any sort of plan whatsoever. Correct. I mean, you have to. And I think as an American, in our society today, like investing for retirement is something that all of us kind of were brought up believing was possible or that something we should do.
Yeah.
Right. And I think any of us who were sitting around at, in our youth and you have, a bunch of friends and someone's like, oh, this is my investment plan, or I really want to do this. And, there's always the one guy who's like, investing, dude, I'll be dead by 30. I don't need to invest for anything or something, And everybody would kind of probably look at them kind of like an idiot. Like, oh, come on, dude. Like,
need something.
You're an idiot. You got to invest for the future. But I think now it's like, maybe the joke's on the rest of us, right? Like, because it's one of those things where, and this is the other thing is like, even whether it's the stock market, like you're talking about coming out, you pay the taxes in or it's coming out tax free, you're paying them on the way out, or it's the real estate market. It's the same thing. Like there's no guarantee right now that I bought properties knowing that like the state excise tax was 1.78% when I bought them. There's no guarantee in 10, 15 years that excise tax isn't 10%, right?
Oh, it's 3 on all mine. It cost me 1 year, 1.8 million.
Yeah.
I try to put that in your pro forma.
Well, and that's the thing, but that's how you built your pro forma.
Exactly, because it was 1.78 for a decade.
This makes it extremely problematic because every lever can kind of be adjusted without your ability to really refute it or stop it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the investment becomes a little bit whimsical. Yeah. Like it becomes a little bit like, hey, I think this is still a good idea. I'm not really sure what my return is going to be.
I think it's what is so frustrating about the concept of, well, we need more affordable housing. The fact you say all that on this hand and then raise every cost of that housing to your point. And I think that's what makes it so difficult is my assumption was, hey, look, we need affordable housing. So the government, whose job, they're not a business.
No.
They're here to help facilitate the needs of the people, right? Is that they're going to pave the way to make housing more affordable. And instead it's the other way,
right?
Where it's making it more and more difficult to actually do it. And then, hey, great job. You got it built. That's a quarter of the battle now.
Well, and that's I think that's the other hard part about getting involved and wanting to get involved and encouraging people in the public to get involved. When the government does come out and say, hey, we have a problem as a society or as a state or a municipality of this thing, right? Like, hey, we have a shortage in affordable housing. Well, there's guys like you or me or whoever who they don't have to do that. Yeah. Like, you got a lot of options of things that you could do to make money, or where you go, you know what, that's a need that I can address. I have the skill set to help in that aspect. But now you start to say, okay, I'm going to be one of the people that helps create the solution to the problem that you're telling me is a problem. And then my reward for that is you're going to make it as difficult as possible for me to do that and continually move the bar or change the rules. And it's like, well, now you're disincentivizing people to get involved to create solutions for the problems that you're screaming about in the first place.
Correct. Yeah, and interest rates on me, right? You could look historically, rates have always been higher, lower. Like that's on a developer to figure out and have tolerance for an interest rate. That's a variable you should have in your equation, right? How fast it went up from 20 in 22, I don't know if you could have predicted that, but let's say you should have that. It's the fact you have to have all of these other micro and macro level things on there, and so for us, I could see it slowing to a halt on a lot of it, and just going to buy buildings that I know are below replacement cost. And kind of sitting there. But then now I'm like, but I have a choice to go anywhere now. I can run most of the business stuff from anywhere. So it's like, is it Spokane?
Right.
And then now all of a sudden, all those words of the wise people talking about the municipalities and making sure those are in line and what they're doing. I'm like, that makes a ton of sense. And they knew what they were doing when they were going. And so you see a lot of them going to Idaho, unfortunately, right now. But I think that will become the next 1 to 2 years of how Spokane deals with this whole, because again, it plays in a lag. They won't even realize people left.
It's not just Spokane, and it's not just real estate. I mean, I think the thing is, you can look at any business, but let's just take a restaurant or take any business, take a concrete business. Your value of that business is based on its revenue.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, a multifamily apartment is worth primarily what it pulls in rents and what its expenses are. Right. Like that's what somebody's going to buy if I ever want to sell it. If I have a concrete business, it's the same thing. If I make $200,000 a year for 10 years and I'm going to sell that concrete business to somebody, they're going to say, show me your books, show me your gross, show me your expenses, show me your net.
Makes sense.
I'm going to make you an offer based on that. Well, those are slowly shrinking. Right. because the revenue for a lot of these small, medium-sized businesses, revenue is coming down because costs are increases. But like you said, the market sets the standard for what it costs per square foot of concrete to get poured. So you don't have the ability to just jack up the rate, right? Like it's an old industry-related thing, but yet your asset is what's getting minimized, right? So your business that you kind of put your heart and soul into over 10, 15, 20, 30 years, right? With the idea of like, I'm going to try to make some money running this business. And hopefully at some point in time, this business also has a value if I decide to exit. And those exit values are just being like hammered across the board, right? Restaurants, like small businesses, like it doesn't really matter what the business is, construction, like, and that's the problem that I see is that you're really stepping on, and you're talking about taxing unrealized gains while you're simultaneously making it harder for me to do business, and you're depreciating the value of my asset in real time, right?
And I think the hard one is that it is a bigger problem than we even look at, because I think what it looks like in a lot of its faces is we don't want to encourage real estate ownership. So they say the number is about 13% owned by hedge funds. That you could look up a number, you'll hear up to 25 or more. You'll hear as little as 10. But is that it's almost like we're wanting to discourage home ownership, and which is fine because but the issue is that it aggregates then to the top. The issue that the top doesn't understand is why is a house worth something? Because people
want to buy it, right?
But what happens when you create an entire culture that can't buy? What happens to the value of that asset?
Or disincentivize them from wanting to
all of a sudden you're going to hit 50. I don't want to just go buy a house then. I mean, you created a forever renter. So how much is a home worth when everybody believes in renting now? And it's like it decreases the value.
Right.
Like
the taxes are higher.
Exactly.
And the insurance is higher, right?
And so it creates a system where it's like this used to be this thing that I think was the American dream. Seemed great, buy a house, build wealth. Is like, but you also now take that one across, and it's like, I know most people retired right now are actually living off the equity in the home they decided to buy.
Well, and here's the other rub on the other side of that which makes this seem nonsensical to me is I have also heard it said, like literally verbatim in city council meetings and planning, like that landlords who own rental properties are contributing to the housing crisis because there's not enough housing for people to buy, and ultimately people want to buy housing. We want to encourage Americans to own housing because it's a wealth tool, right? It's a piggy bank. It's a forced savings. Yeah. So you're squeezing the landlords, saying that like, hey, all of these landlords that own these houses are contributing to the housing crisis because now there's less houses for people to buy, but you're also making it like there's less incentive for people to want to buy and own because you're increasing so it's like at some point you're disincentivizing both sides of the table, right? And you're kind of squeezing things into either government owned stuff or corporate, right? Exactly. Those big hedge funds, right? Because they're playing on a small margin. Yeah. And it's like,
and a longer future. Like, so think like, do you see Berkshire Hathaway purchased, was it this last week? One of the largest construction companies. Put $6.5 billion into it, over value of what it was, and you're like, all right, what if a Berkshire Hathaway partners with an American Homes for Rent?
Right, but that's also a humongous red flag to me. Like, what Warren Buffett's a smart dude.
That's what I'm saying.
Why would he overpay by $6.2
because
billion?
he sees something we don't see.
He knows something.
But I'm saying, what if he's built? What if he goes and then so we are selling a property in Boise right now, actually to American Homes for Rent, publicly traded company that builds entire developments that are rentals only.
Yep, and you see that in Spokane.
Yeah, and you'll see it. But like. What if you pair the largest home builder with a company that literally just buys that version of it? I mean, like you would create massive swaths of new homes, which are great, but they would all be for rent.
Be for sale, exactly.
And then that Berkshire can offer depreciation, all the things we love about real estate. But then you start going through it, and I'm like, man. And then we're also not teaching it in schools anymore. I would argue the average person doesn't know how to make a home repair like they used to before. Like my dad fixed everything. If it went wrong, we didn't call someone. We got in there. Now, was it done right? Dad, if you're listening, it was. I think we did right for most part, but some of those plumbing drains didn't work well.
Yeah, and that's also some of the rub with technology. Like, people used to work on their own cars. Now it's impossible, right? You got computer chips and everything. I wouldn't say housing is to that extent, but it is a lot harder to do home improvement or to be handy around your house nowadays with different materials. All your plumbing is PEX now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of, brain power to figure out like an elbow on a threaded pipe, and twisting it right tight and left loose, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot harder when you have to buy crimping tools. You have to have like all these different sort of skill sets. Are you dealing with sheetrock? Are you dealing with like lath and plaster? Are you dealing with like all of these kind of new products that are coming out?
I know, but I feel like you would have gone and figured it out. Like I think that's the difference now. Is you would have just figured out. What's killing is some of the regulatory stuff.
Exactly.
So
and then they said, are they even letting you do that?
Yeah.
Right? Are they even letting you do that as a homeowner?
Yeah.
Like
but again, everything points towards we don't want homeowners. And that's what worries me more than anything. We don't want homeowners. We want you to put your money into a market.
And
who's using those IRA funds?
What I would say is they're trying to squeeze out the small to medium-sized landlord.
Yep. And then again, then where do you put it? In the stock market, into retirement accounts. Where were those put? Those are put into BlackRock, who's buying all the houses. And I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. Like, I know there's some puppet master up there somewhere, but it just makes no sense to me of like, all right, so then you want to fight the system. Well, then you got to have the deep enough pockets. That's what I ran to. You want to go build 100-unit apartments? You're playing with fish that are massive.
Oh, yeah.
That will squeeze you out. They know the pond. And I feel like we had it, at least my time. I felt like you were similar when you were growing your real estate portfolio, where felt like the pond was wide open a little bit. There was enough. Or there's
enough where like some smart moves and some hard work can still allow you to play that game. And right now, I don't know that that's, those options are becoming limited and more limited and more limited. And even to the point now of like going back to like the advice that I give to people is like, even like I even have a multitude of more resources available than a lot of people that are starting out, dump trailers, equipment,
lender relationships,
relationships, a portfolio to lever against if I need to. Like, it's just one of those things where, did you also know that Warren Buffett owns the second largest manufacturing home company?
Oh, yeah.
I forget the name of it. Begins with a C.
Yeah. Companion coming in. I'll have to look that up. Yeah. No, I mean, and again, he doesn't make moves unless you see the future. And it's more Berkshire Hathaway at this point, but
yeah, that is definitely something that I think if you look at the future of housing and new construction, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more modular.
Yep. Yeah. And so I was going to get to like, there's an optimistic side of this, right? At every point that it hit too much, you saw innovation. You see innovation. And so whether it's a 3D printed home, which I think could be interesting, more simplified electrical plans. We don't draw as much power as we did when we were building post World War II. Mm-hmm. We don't have those massive 14 by 4 big box TVs and large appliances. So like you can actually have simpler electrical systems.
Oh, did you see that article about a business selling like half their power to like one
data center?
Is it? Well, I'm assuming it's
well, this would be 16%. It's enough power it's more power than to power Spokane, Northern Idaho, the whole region.
That's insane. Yeah. The article I saw, I think it was in the Spokesman, said that they sold more power to one user than half of the entire current user base uses in a year.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're talking about that article. Yeah, that's where they sold it. So they put in an application for a data center.
Oh, and that's
a request. This is a request to draw it. So it's about as much power as the Kaiser, or it's a little less than what the 2 Kaiser smelter plants did.
So where's that power come from?
I don't know. I just hope abundant water power. I don't know. I bet some point you go back to
comes from, right? My point is like even that is a limited resource.
Yeah. You can, there's only so much that rolls out. I mean, then what do you go back to nuclear? Fire up Hanford again? I don't know. I think we're at an energy point where some technology is going to have to fill that void to get us there. The hard part is, I think AI, this is the fallacy of a $1 trillion valuation, right? Is the assumption that you can store the data, power the AI.
Yeah. And it's, if you can't
cool the AI, do all the things. And I'm like, I mean, it's getting more kickback because you're going to know for 20 years whether you're next to Hanford or you're not. Think how long people lived next to Hanford before you knew.
And had no idea.
No idea.
Right.
Think how long a data center is going to be there before you're like, the EMF coming off this thing is killing people.
Oh, the EMF.
It's got to be so high.
Well, and the water that they use to cool those things.
And they're talking about the temperature change. I don't want to misquote. I'll come with more facts on the next time if we dive in this one. But it was like, I want to say it was like 8-degree change in temperature, change in outside temperature next to one.
That's insane.
But again, they're putting off so much heat.
Yeah.
So much energy.
Water to cool it. And that water is typically routed, ideally, like out of a major river like the Columbia or the Snake, and then it's put back in, but it's put back in at a lot warmer temperature.
A lot warmer. And then what does it do to the
what does it do
fish?
to the fish? What does it do to the biology? What does it do to the plant life?
Like, major salmon runs. Are you joking me? Like, so I just think it's one of those weird ones. We're making a lot of decisions because of how shiny AI is.
It's one big decision like that I think is very short-sighted of the fallout, right? And they're so fixated and kind of greedy on like what it will bring or like the money or the tax base or whatever, but they're failing to like take into consideration like what 20 years from now, 15 years from now, or what, just even being honest about any of the negative ramifications or repercussions.
Yeah.
Right. Like you still might weigh it out and say it's worth it, but there's no conversation currently being had very loud about the negatives.
No.
You know?
No, and we'd already had the server ones kind of there, and they were already an issue. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's just one of those weird ones where I think it's that thoughtful decision around it. So then what kind of assets win in an environment like that? And that'll be an interesting one. Even now, I use AI to model all our stuff. Like I have literally created a model that checks every property. So now I can screen a property and then it searches out and finds one. So we found one that we're going to put an offer on. And then I'm like, nope, I need the 10 flags. Nope, I need 10 more flags. But it's calling out things that I'm like, it's not. And the hard part is it's not right all the time. Right. Actually, I would say there's 10% errors in a lot of it. But it's like once you know what you're looking for at the error, that's the people who will be deadly in the next like year and a half to 2 years. Because it's only as good as the information fed into it. And so then all we did was spend our time kind of feeding that, but it still doesn't answer those questions. Because I thought if we use it, we could offset some of the cost and maybe have less employees, less overhead, less pieces to lower our cost to manage your property, to run a property. The issue is that everything else is going up faster than I can lower it to be there. And like, we'll be competitive because we were able to lower it.
Trying to patch holes in a boat, right? And it's like that, new leaks keep springing up, dude. You only got 10 fingers, but every time you start sticking your hole in a finger, there's 2 more holes that pop in the bottom of your boat. And you're like, how does this work long term, right?
Trust me. That's why I feel like it's been the last 3 years. And I finally like, okay, we're getting a hold on, we're getting caught up. And I'm like, I think if my portfolio would have been not in the middle of development when all that raised, I still think it would have been an issue these 2 years.
Oh, I guarantee it.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was because, that definitely triggered it because I needed refis sooner than I was thinking. But like, I think even if my portfolio was done and I had decent debt, these would have been tough lease up years, tough maintenance years,
rents have gone down.
Yeah.
Right. And then the eviction thing is another one, right? Like, that's just it's really hard when you can't protect your asset from bad characters.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think that part's going away anytime soon. Like we had a tenant, we just had to pay all of her parking tickets and not collect rent. And she never paid rent once.
And you had to pay all of her parking tickets?
That was what we negotiated because it was cheaper than going through a full eviction and the time to do it.
Oh, to get her to leave. You're like, we'll pay your parking debts. Yeah.
And we won't collect on the rent that we are owed.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, this is a tough game.
Well, and that's the problem, I think, with some of these, the city council and some of these people in leadership positions is like they do not technically understand the industries or the things that they are basically required to or supposed to make decisions around.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the ahas that I've had as you get older is like the people I assumed as a younger person that the people in positions of power that were making these decisions were somewhat educated on or somewhat capable of making those decisions. And I think what I'm realizing more and more as I get older is like there's a lot of these people that are making decisions and have zero basis to be making those decisions.
Yes. Well, I think about it, like I'm still weird to me that you can be a president of the U.S. and not serve in the military, yet you're running the largest military in the world. The second one is like I still think as part of your coming on to city council, you got to work a week at Spokane Housing Authority. Go there for 1 week and tell me you passed the same things. And you may come back with more empathy. You may come back with something different, but you're at least going to see how a unit's rented and how a tenant cussing at you, slamming the door on you, trashing your unit, and you still can't do anything but post a notice.
Yeah.
And then they get out of it because the notice was posted 30 seconds too late.
Yeah.
Or said one name or misspelled a letter. And I'm like, I chose all the wrong professions. I'm like, went to law, and I'm like, God, no. Like, that's all the ones where you're like, you're just trying to get hours. So you need a case. You're going to build one. And again, what's really hard is I'm not saying every landlord's good.
No.
I'm like, sometimes I'm a bad landlord on some because it's like this property just can't afford what is needed because of these regulations on what we're doing.
Right.
And so I struggle with it sometimes as well across all the properties, but I can at least sometimes have that system to it. What if I had two and they don't pay? Your mortgage is still due.
Yep.
Your insurance bill is still due. Your Avista bill is now actually due because you need to keep the power on and obviously now keep the unit cooled. Like, have we talked about that one?
No, I don't think we've gotten to that
No,
one yet.
but even, so Jen, well, we'll talk about it. But like, as we dive in that one, it's like, well, what happens if they don't pay the Avista bill and the unit's hot?
Well, yeah, exactly.
What happens if the power's off? Do I, as a landlord, have to go pay the Avista bill now to keep that unit at 80 degrees or less? So real quick on, actually, you speak to it more. I think you have a little more insight on it, but.
Well, no, go for it. I mean, to my understanding, right, it goes into effect in 27?
7, yep.
Yeah. But all new construction housing will be required to maintain an interior property temperature.
In every room.
In every single room. Is it below?
Below 80 degrees. And pretty soon it will be every single unit. It's not just new construction. Like, it'll end up going to every single unit.
Which there's
Picture an old
so
house.
many problems
Picture an old house.
with this
You know what I mean?
decision, right?
You don't have enough power in there. You don't have enough. Yeah.
Well, it's just short-sighted, right? So, like, on the surface, I get it, right? They're like, okay, listen, there's these bad actors out there, landlords or whatever. And there's people that, are sweating to death inside of their apartments or are
Has anybody ever
uncomfortable or whatever.
Yeah.
I get it, right? So I guess that's the notion or the premise. The hard part is that for me, like, I see so many holes just initially, but like, first of all, central heating and cooling is notoriously not efficient.
Correct.
Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you have central heating and cooling, which on the surface is a good idea, and a lot of us have central heating in our house. We have a forced air gas furnace, or we have a heat pump or something, and we have all these ducts or vents around our house. The issue with central heating is that you can't necessarily zone or control heat.
Correct.
So I don't need the storage closet downstairs next to my laundry room where I store my, Christmas decorations to be 70 degrees or 72 degrees, right? Like, it'd be perfectly fine if that storage room was warm. Well, with central heating, you don't have that option necessarily, right? You're trying to keep the entire system centrally heated and cooled. So it makes sense to zone heat. You see a lot of construction nowadays. It's like you're putting like forced air cadet heaters in specific rooms, and you're putting like air conditioners in like the living room or in the bedrooms, right? Like, or a window unit, because it's like that would be an area of the house that you wanted to zone heat. Like, yeah, I want my bedroom to be cool or something, or I want like where I'm going to sit and eat dinner, watch television or something to be cool. Again, I don't need my guest room where nobody goes unless I have guests to I don't need to pay for it. Yeah. And B, it's a waste of resources. And yet these are the things that they're like mandating, right?
Well, and what's super hard is I do believe you need heat in every unit or every room.
Sure, but
to make sure it's heated.
Technically, you only need that to like not freeze, right? Like the amount of heat that you would need would be like, okay, like I just need to keep this.
But do you need AC? Can you open the window at night? Like, I lived in multiple rentals that didn't have. You open the window and you have box fans. What they don't understand is that a lot of times the unit will have AC, but to keep the Avista bill down, people do not use it.
Right.
So then what the issue will be is like, okay, hey, look, it's at 80. Who's testing it? Is it a picture of a thermometer in each unit?
Right, so they're going to send somebody out.
Is it a sensor?
Who's going to pay for that?
Exactly. Is it a sensor? Wait, what happens when they get out there and they see an AC's there? Didn't turn it on? Where's that middle gap? And I'm like, oh my God, what a weird policy to like put in place. Like, it's not funded. It's just a rule.
But it contributes. My argument though is it's nonsensical, right? Like, it doesn't really even make sense when you think about the logistics of a home or an apartment to maintain similar temperatures in every area, right? It just doesn't. It's wasteful. It's wasteful of the resources of natural gas, of electricity. But second to that, you're also looking at like how much of this, scenario is necessary in the sense of like, look where we live geographically.
Yeah, correct.
You
That's what I'm saying.
probably only use your air conditioning 2 or 3 months out of the year at all. So now the cost of construction is going to go up. Yep. You start building, like you said, multifamily or new house, like every single new construction house and every single apartment now has to have this. So it's like all the metals that have to be mined to create that, all the manufacturing that has to be done to create that, all of the energy that has to be like burned and utilized just to create these things that now have been mandated or rules have been created that we need to have. And it's like they're unnecessary.
Oh.
And we're going to pay the expense to create them. And then we're going to pay the expense to monitor them. And then we're going to pay the expense to run them.
Yeah. Oh, it's the best one. So the best one is we built such a tight building envelope. So the wrap, whole thing, siding wrap, the whole thing, air test it, that it was too good. So we had to install fresh air intakes at $2,000 a pop per room.
Yeah.
We built such a good unit.
Which by the way, is required in your building code and to meet your energy credits.
Correct.
So the R value of insulation that I put in the lid, the R value of insulation that I put in the walls, like the R value of the windows that I install have to be a certain level to meet a certain energy requirement and to meet code. And then they're meeting them so well that now they're saying, well, yeah, you need this other machine to bring oxygen. It's like, well, why wouldn't you lower these things? Or why wouldn't you build like, oh, well, no, you can't do that. So you have these things kind of fighting each other. And again, it comes down to this kind of nonsensical, you're banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, and you just do it because it's like it has to be done to do it. And I'm like, man, and the hard part is like because of things like that passing, is I just don't see that cost going down. Like they're just the cost to build them, I don't see going down. The only issue that I see is that you're going to discourage 1031s wanting to buy real estate. So they're going to cash out or go some other place. Investors wanting to risk it on real estate. So what's that going to do to property values? All of a sudden, there's going to be fewer buyers buying in the market. Yeah. And it's going to hurt property values. And I think that's the weird part about it, is it's just disincentivizing the thing we need the most, which is small mom and pops buying these, existing owners holding on to them so they don't sell them. Because right now, there's properties I can have that I can rent for $1,200 because we bought them a while ago.
Yeah.
As soon as I sell it to somebody, the minimum to break even is 28.
Yeah.
And I think it's just this weird kind of dichotomy. And I'm like, I don't know. I thought about going to council every once in a while and just saying something, but then I'm like, I don't even know if anyone hears it. Because then it'll just be that's the landlord wanting to make more money. And I'm like, so
getting back to your question of like where my mind is, the two things that I'm leaning into pretty heavily right now is smaller cities, rural development, smaller municipalities.
Like how small? Like a Deer Park.
For sure. Chewelah, Deer Park, Colville. I mean, because they seem to be at least welcoming of development. They want more housing. They're tired of seeing. I just went to a city council meeting of a small town here north of town. I won't name names, but they were verbally saying we are tired of losing our youth to surrounding larger cities. Like people, there's nowhere for kids or young adults to live here when they graduate from high school or when they come home from college, and so even if they wanted to live in this town, there's nowhere for them to live. Yeah. Or they're renting a ADU or a back room with a shared kitchen on somebody else's house for $1,700 a month while they try to make a living in the local economy that can't afford to pay those high wages, and they're spending 50-60% of their income on housing. Yeah. So they seem to say, no, come build something, like give us a place so that we don't have our youth like running out of here going to neighboring cities. Because again, they're losing in multiple capacities, right? You're losing tax revenue, but you're also losing just like good citizens who have pride in their community, but also can then take the place of other people who might be getting older and wanting to retire. Like who's going to be the clerk at the courthouse when there's nobody to fill like Betty's shoes when she retires? Like who's going to be the beat cop? Who's going to be the restaurateur? Who's going to run like the local shops and businesses when there's no incentive for that younger generation to like stick around, or they don't see any opportunity. Like, and that's the down vibe of like, why do people a lot of times leave those small towns? Because they just look at this like really small, limited amount of opportunity that's available there. And it's like, I got to go somewhere else. I got to go check somewhere else out. And so I think that working with and starting to do a lot of research on some of these smaller cities in municipalities is something I've been digging into. And then that modular concept as well. The fact that Warren Buffett owns the second largest, modular home manufacturer in the country, and the the thing that's really turned my attention to it is the quality of the product.
Yeah, it's much better than.
Yeah,
it's much better.
I know that people say like, mobile homes or modular homes have always been deemed as kind of like a lesser thing, right? There's a stigma on them that like maybe the quality's less or the appreciation of them is less. But a lot of people don't know. Like I think Trump just signed this into order with HUD. So he signed an order with HUD to say that I think it was that building and planning and cities could not put restrictions on where modular products were allowed to be located.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. But also that the lending on them had the same, like that they were like
a house, right?
Yeah. They were looked at
versus
like a house.
Now they're seen as like real property.
Correct. And then also with appraisers.
Yeah.
Are not allowed to ding them on appraisal. So if you were to have like a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom modular home with a 2-car garage in a neighborhood with a bunch of stick-built houses, they would denote on the appraisal that it was modular, and they would reduce the value of its.
And are you separating between a manufactured home, like the house split in half that you see driving down the road, versus what I would consider the modular, where it's a fully built, contained kind of product?
I would say both.
Yeah,
I would say
so.
both.
But the law passed for manufactured too, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing about it is when you really get down to it, and this is what I think a lot of people don't know, and I kind of nerd out on, but those products never see the elements.
Correct.
So they're built completely inside of facilities that are conditioned. So you're not getting sun exposure on OSB, or you're not getting sun exposure on your beams or your wood. You're not getting rain. You're not getting snow. So like you're not getting the materials themselves are not being exposed to the elements during the manufacturing process. But also in order to ship them down the road, they have to do like so much cross bracing and so much structural kind of engineering that they're actually more structurally sound than a stick-built home.
Seriously.
If you were to go look at your what I would call affordable nationwide home builders, and you would compare these manufactured homes coming out of the facility, their insulation values, their R values, their lack of exposure to the elements, the fact that their structural composition and integrity have to be built such that they can be shipped, that product is a much more superior product than any sort of track house builder in the country.
Yeah, there's significantly less waste. They're able to, I mean, you're able to cut specifically to it. I love it. We priced one for actually looking at our project on Priest Lake. Instead of sending builders up, can we just buy a unit and drop it on there? And it was actually competitive with pricing wise, and they could deliver it. They built it in 2.5 months. So when you start looking at these large tracks, I mean, one of the biggest costs we have right now is cost of capital. But it's not the cost of capital is expensive because it's the timeline in which to build the product too. Right. So if you could shrink a 12-month schedule to 4 months, that 8 months in savings is another way to reduce the cost of that project. And so I think again, back to innovation, I think something's going to innovate out of this. I've been really looking into the 3D printed stuff. Like I just think that has, maybe not in Washington yet, still got to work on that, but in a lot of different applications where I'm like, I could see how that would work.
The issue I see with the 3D printed stuff isn't the construction quality or the speed. It is the fact that you still have to run all of the ancillary systems once it's built. You still have to put the heating and HVAC in, the electrical in, the plumbing and all that stuff. With the manufactured process, it's getting all done in a conditioned space. Like the electrical is getting run, like the plumbing is getting run in the walls, like the heating and HVAC, all that's being taken into consideration. So when it's shipped ready, And it so just as an example, I looked at one project and I was pricing out like a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage, new construction house in Spokane, resale wise is like mid-4s.
Yep.
Mid-400s. Now you have to take into account the costs of the development, the infrastructure, the lot prep, all that. But you can get that product shipped out of the manufacturer for about $150,000.
Do you have to put it as
brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house? Now you'd have to add the garage and you'd have to do all the site prep. But what I'm saying is like all in, you're probably about $325,000. And I would say that the people building those houses, there's no way they're making $100,000 a house.
No, not anymore.
No way.
Not anymore.
No way. I think a builder would probably be, and I'm not a builder, so don't quote me on this, but I would say they're probably making somewhere between 25 and 30 net.
That's about right.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, is that the wave of the future? I definitely think it's going to be a disruptor in the housing game for sure, and in the multifamily game.
I think it's going to hit the multifamily the best because we keep putting out these boxes, and the box just gets more boxy as the prices go up. So you can't even do that. So you're going to have this ultra luxury, which I believe that's what got flooded the most. But there still is going to be this workforce level version that comes out of it that I'm excited to see what it is. Or you're going to see less units on space. Because the only thing depressed right now is land values. I mean, some housing values have come down too, but not as much as like the underlying land basis for them.
And I think it's because the cost to develop the land before you even have a buildable site has doubled,
skyrocketed,
tripled, you know?
And then that, I mean, let alone the permit fees and all those. I mean, this 88 unit we just put it on, I mean, we'll be at $512,000 to hook up to the street utilities.
Yeah.
I'm like, the water's already flowing through there. The sewer's already there. I'm adding taxable revenue with 88 new tenants. And I was like, because what's that? Yeah, it's about $4,000 a door now, almost $5,000 a door, give or take.
For the GFCs?
Just for, tap fees, the sewer connect, all the connection fees, the different water connection fees. So.
Yeah, and that's another, like, you know, when you say, how did we get where we are, and you kind of start to look, and one of the reasons that we've gotten to where we are with like those general facility charges and connection fees is because they'll say, well, the sewer systems and the water systems and all of these things haven't been maintained the way that they should have been over the years, or the connection charges were too low over the years, so now we have to overcompensate, or we have to kind of correct the ship. And to me, that goes back to begging the question of when you look at these politicians and you look at these people in leadership positions or positions of power, and when they're making decisions, it's like, are they making short-sighted decisions because they lack the knowledge, right? Or B, are they also making decisions because they're like, hey, man, I'm here for 4 years. I'm here for 2 years, right? Like, or I want to get reelected. Or I want to say that, like, under my tenure, like, I increased this, you know, revenue stream by 2% or 10%. And so what I would, wrapping that all in a bow, is what I would say is, like, they're not held accountable for the long-term fallout or even just results of the decisions they're making. And that's created this monster where the people in power probably could use a lot more education, but they're also not, they're being incentivized to make short-term decisions that benefit them or their reelection, or, you know, that feather they can put in their cap without any sort of ramifications or repercussions 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road. And we all know they like to blame the last guy or gal, right?
Yeah, which makes sense.
Well,
it's the best platform.
My fault, right? I just walked into this problem and now I'm going to solve it. But I'm still going to solve it with short-sighted decisions that don't take into account the long-term fallout of those decisions, right? And there's nobody holding them to that.
No, and there's how would you? Like, I think what makes me a better developer is having to manage it when we're done.
Right. You have to.
If I just had to build a building, I'd build you whatever made the most highest. I would go look at an appraisal, show you all the top dollar marks I can get for just having a unit that exists there. Build that, sell it to you. I don't have to worry about if the rooms are too small, the ceilings are too short, the quality of construction is not good. Like, as long as I hit minimum code. And that's what these policies decisions are pushing. You're trying to, hey, how do I get a unit out of the ground and do this for something that's reasonable? And so I think a lot of what you're seeing now, I would call the legacy projects, which were vetted before energy code changed.
Yep.
Great locations, like Class A locations, or Idaho.
I don't know where you're going across the border.
It's tough. I just don't see that what incentivizes somebody to want to build here when every day I do have to check the news just to make sure something didn't get passed while I was sleeping.
Well, and then also you're not taking into account, or we're not even taking into account when we're sitting here talking about just the hesitation or the, hesitancy of somebody to do it at all based upon just watching what has happened over the last few years, right? I mean, I think that definitely, I don't have a crystal ball that tells me that things are going to be better or worse in 10 years, but I'm looking at what's happened in the last 10 years going like, I don't think they're going to be better, right? Like the skepticism has grown in me to be like, well, I don't even want to make the decision now that makes kind of sense just because I'm afraid of it not making sense in 5 years or 10 years because the last decisions I made 5 and 10 years ago aren't making sense now.
Yeah.
So you kind of create this built-in sort of, reservation about doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, hey man, they might just blow the whistle and change the game at halftime, dude. And I might be halfway through a project, or I might be sitting in 5 years and, my grandkids or my kids will be calling me an idiot. Like, Grandpa, what'd you do that for, you idiot?
Did you see,
because when I made the decision,
it made sense, man, with the facts I was given.
Right.
I mean, because you still need housing, right? It's the argument. But you see the mayor, New York mayor, Mondamis, where basically he proposed all these things where he's going to get rid of the bad landlords. And if they don't fix it, then it's going to be able to have a step in where the state could take it back or the city could take it back. I'm like, so what do you mean? If somebody doesn't meet one of these regulations, you can afford to make those upgrades to it, the city can step in and take it back. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just like this slippery slope of like, don't know that they're actually going to do it. But the fact somebody can say it out loud and not get the most revolting feedback means like, wait, what safety do you have in owning anymore? And so I'm like, man, now you got to pay attention more politically on some of this stuff. But I think the key around it is like not making it so unaffordable. I still think it's crazy that somebody who has a paid off house has to still incur property taxes that go up. I'm like, like how is that a thing? I'm like, oh, not that a loan should force you or not have you do it, but like there's got to be some point where that is somehow spread across a bigger swath. But then again, on our apartment buildings, we pay a ton in property taxes.
Yeah, and I mean, it begs the thought or the questioning of like, I mean, I can get why you would be still charged for the utilities that you're using. You're still using power, water, sewer, all that kind of stuff. But you're not to what extent are you doing anything with the land that's harming or affecting or costing anybody else any money,
Except for another way to get some tax dollars.
Right. So it's just like, hey, and I think that's what, going back to what I said before, you're taxed when you make money, you're taxed when you're taxed on the things that you own. So it's like there's this incentive to get you to own things. Yeah. I want Jordan to own things if I'm the government because then I can impose taxes on the things you own, and you're going to pay those taxes out of loss aversion. Yeah. You're going to pay those taxes because you don't want something that you owned and worked for taken away from you. Yeah. So it's like, Jordan, please own things. Yeah. Please buy more things. Exactly. Because the more things that you own and the more things that you buy, I can tax. And out of a sheer loss aversion, you're going to be like, well, I guess I'm going to pay it. I don't want to lose my house, right? Yeah. I owed it free and clear, but now I got to pay $10,000 a year in taxes. But
exactly. I'm like, oh. But then you're seeing people retire or that should be retired now. I can't even afford to live in their home. Yeah. The taxes went up so much. So hopefully they're working on things like that too. I think it's a broad scope. It'd be cool to snap your finger and watch some of these just change. But I think that this over-regulation of the landlord-tenant situation is going to be a tough ripple effect. Because again, I see it on the investor side. So I'll get a call from, again, New York's great when they call because theirs are worse than ours. So it's actually, they understand. But like you call like investors out of Florida, like, what? Where'd you get? We're working getting rid of property taxes.
Yeah.
What? Your government, a tenant was in your unit how long? And then, so basically I have to only go to get my money from New York and California are the only two states that can appreciate it. That have worse situations than we have.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's the rub of, trying to play this game. It's just literally trying to figure out how to play this game smart. And I think that's one of the reasons I love this podcast or just having these conversations, but also like with some of our guests is like that for me is kind of what it's become about. Like the game now has become about like, okay, how do you make smart decisions? Yeah. And talking to people that have seemed to have made smart decisions in the past or currently making smart decisions and understanding their thought process, like how they go through the checks and balances of when they make a decision, what decision they're making. Yeah. And that's what's like intriguing me right now. Yeah. Because there's gotta be a way is what I keep telling myself, right? Like there's gotta be a way or there is a way to make this work, but how is it? Yeah. What way?
Yeah. And success leaves clues for sure. I think you said that, but it's also one of those interesting ones of is there ever a fundamental shift of what worked in the past doesn't work today?
Oh, you see that all the time.
But
I think we're seeing that now for sure.
Like I think,
You know?
and then does it change the game? To your point, are we now coming out in the second half and left is right and right is left, up is right? And that's what I can't tell. Is this a fundamental shift, or is this just an inflationary environment, which we've seen before,
Right.
that needs to get under control, which it needs an invent of a new industry, which is AI. That will create jobs,
right? That's
will
why they're
create the
vying
things.
so hard for.
But if it doesn't go, that's 40% of the propped up stock market, right? I mean, that's like 40% of the value on there is an AI speculation.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it works. It's not like speculate. It's out there, right? It does. I believe it'll hold that value. It just, as long as they can make it, as long as they can maintain it.
Yeah.
But then from there, it's like, that's what it takes, right? Is the invent of the new one. I can always think of that. The guy who was filling kerosene lamps probably thought, what do I do now? Now there's a new power source, and then you find the new job. Coal miners who figure out the new job. And I think humans are adaptable that way. It's just, I think we're caught in that messy middle of, I truly believe it's more luck than I've ever thought, of like the day you want to get out of your portfolio, what's that market doing? Like, I don't think real estate's bad. It's when do you want out of it?
Yeah. And even business in general. And this plays into where I think like all of our listeners, it doesn't matter whether you're in real estate or not, but like, you know, I'm thinking about this a lot because I have a daughter and she's getting to be like a teenager, but it's like, how do you choose a college path, right? Or how do you choose not to go to college and pick a career path, right? Because I don't know that anybody would have thought that people in trades like, you know, electricians and plumbers and what would be making the money they're making now.
Yeah.
Right. I got a lot of contractor friends that are like brand new trucks, brand new houses, like rolling pretty good. Right. And I'm happy for them. I'm like, dude, hats off to you.
Well
you
played.
worked hard, well played. Right. But was that genius strategy or was that like a struggle?
Or could you have seen it coming? I think that's what I asked myself more and more. Like, could you have seen that coming? And you put that and you're like, yeah, we literally had a system that encouraged, incentivized, made you feel bad for not going on and getting a paper diploma for a job that was more comfortable.
Right.
So what's inevitably going to happen?
The
thing that's going to shrink, and then when anything shrinks down, that's the demand create. That's the scarcity. That's the value.
Yeah.
Is when you're the few that can do the job. And so then when I look at it, it's like, okay, housing's going to go down again. Already fewer starts than we've seen historically. And so it's like, all right, so we're getting that crunch point again. And if AI does its boom, that means dollar per hours are going to go up across the board. It's going to make people more efficient. Now it's questioning whether unemployment goes up, and right. So there's some of that, but it's like, are you looking for those metrics of, I bet you could have saw it coming. If you're like, wait, everybody's going to step away from these jobs, who's going to actually fix the plumbing?
Yeah.
Oh, Ted's the only guy? Well, Ted can charge whatever he wants now. He's the only guy that can fix it. Think of like all these old brick buildings. Nobody's a mason anymore. I have to pay masons so much money to get out there because nobody does it.
Yeah.
And until you have some replacement type thing that can commoditize it, that's where the value is. So I think that's where I look at it on mine is like, I do think some of those costs come down because, again, you're going to go where the money's at. Everybody will. So you're going to have trade schools come back again. You're going to have those pieces come back. Well, what's going to happen? Now there's 15 electricians. And it's just like housing. The best way to make affordable housing is create so much of it.
Yeah.
That you have to compete again, which is what the last 2 years were. Then it makes you, as a developer, it takes any chance of being greedy away because you have to be planning for that.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden somebody drops 400 units here, I better have reserves enough. I better keep enough in the building. I better have brought enough equity. I better have built it right. Like, it makes you a better player in that next phase. It's like this little loop that just keeps
the margin
going.
for any sort of error whatsoever is just getting
It's gone in developing right now. It's gone.
Yeah,
if you're either hitting or you lost. Like,
yeah.
And I think unless you can hold it long enough to see that version come back. And that's what I like about real estate. But I think what you'll see is then all of a sudden, an electrician's driving a brand new truck, living the life. Guess what you want to be? An electrician.
Right.
So then you're going to have that trade kind of go.
And I guess what I'm alluding to is you look further down. I don't even know that that's something I would encourage my kid to get into because I think AI takes that job.
I agree.
I think when you start looking at some of the things I was just talking about, modular and mobile manufacturing facilities, building more housing, and you start looking at those are going to be run by robotics and primarily, the labor force will be robotics and machinery and electric wiring will be run in those houses before they're ever shipped, right? So it's like, so now it's like, again, talking with my daughter or looking at like, what do you want to do? And it's like, it's almost got to be a people-based business or career path where you're dealing with people. I mean, unless like AI takes over mental health counseling. You know,
I mean, technically it could. Will
people be counseled by AI?
I think they will.
That'd be a scary idea.
I think they will. I mean, like, it's pretty easy. They get to know you, and they're going to know. They're going to know what every one of the top psychiatrists, psychologists know, and they'll be able to diagnose. That one I see happening even sooner. I think there's still a sales version, right? Like, I can use all the AI in the world, but if I can't actually, and I can have the product, but if I can't sell you the product or have that piece, now I can have an AI ping you and email you and try to convert. And I think you'll have some of that for low hanging fruit, but there's still going to be a relationship piece to it. But I agree. I think all those houses get built like Model Ts.
Yeah.
And delivered and get set on. I mean, and then you have your automated trucks. You have robots loading an automated truck, leaving a warehouse.
And that truck will drive across the country without a driver. And it will get unloaded by something that's robotic.
Exactly.
Right? And set. I mean, with the...
And you probably have a whole profession that comes assembling. And you become an assembler. And all you are is there. And I don't even know what you... like.
Till they take that too. I mean, again, robotics, the... What do they call them? The... robots that they're making.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it.
Oh, everyone has it. Every brand has different
version. But it's like, it's the articulation of the hands is what they're saying is the toughest thing. And it's only because our society has made so many things that like the human hand, I think, is conducive to.
Correct.
Like, you twist the top off of a water bottle a certain way, but it's made for people that have hands, right? And it's like, but eventually they'll start evolving the construction and design of things to where it's like, well, it's not going to be a human putting it together. So why would I design it so that it turns right and turns left? What would be easier for a robot to do?
And just for people listening, as reference, used to be when I got started flipping house or developing even, it was typically 50%. 50% was for materials, 50% was for labor profit.
Yeah.
Now I'd argue it's like 25% is for materials, maybe 30, and then it's 70% for labor profit.
For sure.
And maybe even 25, 75.
The cost of materials have increased substantially, but it's not... to the extreme of the labor by any means. And so like, I used to always have that same rule of thumb.
That's right
like
about
when I would go into a flip or a renovation project, you'd be like, okay, like this much flooring, this much sheetrock, I'm going to do the roof. And if I penciled it out and it's like, okay, I need $30,000 worth of material, then I would say I'm going to probably pay about that much 60. In labor. What you're seeing now is you're seeing that completely flip flop. It's like, well, I can get all of the materials for this flip for $30,000 and I'm going to pay $70,000 in labor and it's going to be $100,000 to renovate this house.
Yeah. And so again, you attack the most margin point.
Well, because you can't really attack a lot of the materials to some extent, right? Value shop.
They're pretty efficient in a lot of ways. They're pretty efficient. Like they've been designed to be super efficient.
So playing this out in the future, I guess this is what I see. Is I see the human aspect of things and any sort of like custom and I would say cool or maybe even borderline inefficient things will all be an extreme luxury.
Yes.
Right? If you want let's look at housing, for example. There's so much cool architecture in this town. I love this town, but there's so much cool architecture in a lot of towns, but it's like people developed housing back in the day to accommodate the needs of the person living there. So it's like, okay, it needs to have a kitchen and bathrooms, but they also like, hey, we want to build this cool archway. We want to build this cool like cantilevered roof. We want to build this cool and that I think that cool aspect is going to just go away.
Yeah.
It'll be a luxury.
Well, it's going to move to a luxury item. It moves to a luxury item.
So inefficient, right? They're like, why would you peak a roof that way? Yeah. Like, why would you build an archway that way? And it's like, well, because it's super aesthetically cool looking, or it's super fun to like just not have every house on the block look the same, right? That's the problem with tract housing. That's the problem with those kind of sterile developments that you go into. And it's like they all kind of have the similar colors, right? They all have similar layouts. They all have similar pitched roofs. And as efficient as that is, and as like affordable
cheap,
as that might be, right? You say cheap, I say affordable.
I like tomato.
But I don't know. Like to me, I guess that's one of the other sad aspects of it is like you're seeing the death of like cool. You're seeing the death of a lot of like innovation or just like somebody having their own style or flair with a lot of stuff because everything is trending towards that just efficiency. Like efficiency has become the god of everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, how do I make it affordable and efficient? And to me, I'm like, oh, that would be a really sad day when all of those decisions come down to that.
And I think because of the cost and because of where it's at, I think it'll be super isolated to that middle median tier market. Like, I think what'll happen is, I mean, a lot of the wealth's been aggregated at the top. I still think that group spends for custom homes. The design,
for sure.
The things.
But if you look at the ratio, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
if
gonna be very
you have
small
a
too. Yeah,
25% lower class, 50% middle class, 25% upper class, what you're seeing is that squeeze to where like the upper class is going to be 5% of the people.
Well,
but they're going to have 80% of the wealth, and then you're just going to have this lower class of people like that. I don't think we're throwing any revelations out here that the middle class is getting squeezed out of existence, but it's also getting squeezed out of existence with the top tier not growing, right? Like it's shrinking as well.
Yeah,
you know, as percentile base, the amount of wealth is getting higher for those top 5% individuals, but the amount of people in that top is I think that's the hard part, right? Is not being able to dig your way out of that or to get there. Like at some point in time, just becomes like that's what I feel is so cool about the American dream, or like, you know, all of these stories of the American dream where like people coming over here on the boat with nothing and then making something out of themselves, or like a legacy for like generations to come of their family. That's what you see starting to get extinguished. Like that will just become like a sheer impossibility, right? Because the opportunity, the path won't exist.
Just because the originality of it will be gone. Like that's what AI does. It speeds up every kind of thought that allows you to do it. But like I even thought through as you were saying that, I'm like, pretty soon you're probably going to see a modern house doesn't have a garage, maybe a carport, maybe not, because likely your Tesla's out working while you're sleeping. Next one is, do you have kitchens? Or is it just food delivery services with drones to your door? Or quick type meals, synthetic meals that kind of replace some of that for healthier eating. Bedroom sizes, probably about the same, but maybe you might like actually evolve this into a pretty efficient lifestyle that takes away some of those things that we thought were necessary or essential and turns it into this courier convenient type model that allows for those. I mean, we cook some. We have like HelloFresh and a few things like that. I think it's super fun. It's super good to do. I mean, it's social. It's those pieces. But like, I don't know. Does everyone cook? Do they order out more?
Will the cost of installing a kitchen in a house outweigh like, hey, that's 5 years worth of food? I mean, right? Like when your appliances and your countertops and your like when all of that stuff is like, okay, we can put a kitchen in your house and then, you know, your house is going to be $100,000 more than it currently is. Okay. Or we could just build you a house without a kitchen. Yeah. And they're like, well, you know, if I can get meals for X amount of dollars and there's, you know, X amount of people in my family, then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's I'm only going to live here for 3 years, and that's 3 years worth.
Or
of food,
one
right?
piece of equipment that does it all. Like the air fryer does the air fryer.
Reminds
does those.
me of the Jetsons,
But what's funny is doesn't seem that far off, because you look at now they have microwaves that do air frying. They do, or like the Ninja does like air frying, cooking, grilling, all the things, and I'm like, it's not crazy far off. And then if you're trying to cut costs, what do? You take out the double ovens and the warming drawers and the trash compactor and the like all those pieces. But if you did the math on a kitchen and the average time somebody stays in a home that you built, like we were in ours 3 years, you spent $100,000. Did I save $33,000 a year?
Right, that we're talking about of like, oh my gosh, you got a house with a kitchen, right?
How crazy
and
would
they're
that
like,
be?
yeah, we had to go old school, man. We bought one from the early 90s.
Exactly. What? It's like a throwback going to the old house. Yeah. But we talk about it all the time, and every developer kind of group I'm in is talking about like office parking ratios. The parking at an office, well, specifically office, but like
housing.
Yes,
you know, so we might have talked about this before on the podcast, but yeah, I was looking at I was listening to some developers talk on another podcast, and they were talking about that, and like especially in major metros, is taking that parking ratio down to zero sounds asinine. How would I ever fill the 80 unit apartment in downtown Spokane if I have no parking? Well, now it's asinine, but in another 20 years or 10 years even, you might be looking at the guy who built an apartment with a 1-to-1 ratio, and they're like, dude, can you believe they wasted all that real estate putting 80 parking stalls in that apartment?
How much parking that guy has.
And like you look out in an 80-unit parking lot, and there's like 6 cars, right? Because people either A, won't afford to have a car, or B, it'd be like, Uber, man. I just
Yeah,
get
do I
picked
need
up
it?
when I wanted to go somewhere. It's like automated, takes me wherever. Why have a car? Why change oil? Why have maintenance? Why have a payment?
Yeah, my big switch. I mean, yeah, because I have a paid off car. I mean, you still pay $300 a month for insurance, $250. I'm not like a terrible driver, but like the one that my switch point when I saw it, because I have to like see it sometimes. I can visualize it, but was when I got my first Waymo.
Yeah,
And that bad boy took me around in a very high level of service, communication, safety, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's not if now, it's when. But then the hard part as a developer, you got to be able to see that 10-year in the future. And as an investor, across anybody looking at it, is that's what you have to start looking for. Like, what is the next Sears?
I think a lot of the things that we take for granted or that are normal life are just going to disappear. Yeah. And then I also think that we are going to pay through the nose for things that bring us maybe comfortable times or
nostalgia.
Like me and my daughter had a date night last week and we were joking around, but I was like, hey, sweetie, how weird is it going to be when we have like two choices of like restaurants to go to? Like, if we want Mexican food, you're like, you can go to like the automated AI restaurant, or you can go to like a real Mexican restaurant where like people
sing for your birthday.
People make your food, right? Right? So you're going to be like, man, this taco was made by real hands. Mm-hmm. You know, these vegetables were cut by somebody with a knife.
Yeah.
You know? I think that it happens. I do. I think that people are going to, but I think the price on that plate's going to be double or triple, right? Like,
oh yeah, but you're going to go pay to have that.
The automated
experience.
taco is going to be like $8, right? But the taco made by a real person is going to be like $47.
Remember Demolition Man?
I don't think I ever saw
Sylvester
that one.
Stallone, Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
I'll go watch that one more time. Then all of a sudden you're like, geez, man, this is not most of it, but it's those. And so he goes down and has this burger in the underground group. He's like, did you see any cows up there? Obviously, it's not a burger. But he just was so excited to have one. I'm like, I hope that we slow that part down, because I had lunch with Logan today, and it was just, you sit there and you get to talk, and it's just a social setting that we're taking that out of everything. And I think that's the biggest mistake. We're taking the relationship, and we're so relational as a species, like out of everything to make efficiency. And I was like, and nothing.
Well, and for me, it's the heartburn of giving advice, right? We've always, I think, historically relied on our elders for like life advice.
Yeah.
Hey, Grandpa, how did you do X, Y, and Z? Or when did you buy your first house? Or how did you, propose to Grandma? Like little weird things that we get, and like, again, talking to my daughter over dinner the other night or whatever, and it's like, she'd look right at it. She'd be like, hey, Dad, I want to be this or I want to be this. Like, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you anymore, right?
When do you think you will know?
I'm like giving you just like super poor advice.
It's super poor.
Well, and because your frame of reference is just based on historically what has happened, but change didn't occur as quickly.
No.
So
I
advice
think that's
given,
the big difference.
Advice given in like 1910 still held salt in 1940 to some extent, right?
Yeah.
Like the problem with advice now or with like guidance now is it's changing so rapidly that you could just be giving like obsolete advice or just extremely poor advice.
Extremely
like, you
poor.
told me to become a lawyer. You said study hard and become a doctor or lawyer and you'll be fine. And I became a lawyer and now I can't get a job.
Yeah.
Right?
And the Legal Zoom came out the year I graduated, and I'm like, damn it, I knew it.
Yeah.
Or AI came out now.
Yeah.
And reinventing it. So now
and I think about all of the other little like luxuries that I enjoy in life, and I do say luxuries because I think they've become luxuries, but I don't know that. And again, a whole nother rabbit hole to dive down. But like for me, like fishing, or like hunting, or like just even like doing something in the outdoors, going on a hike. Like to me, the sad part is like, will my grandkids be able to walk out of their house and go on a hike without having to like get online, register for a permit? Oh, you're number 812 in line. Your slot is like 2:15 in the afternoon. Don't be at the trailhead before that or after. You have to complete your hike in 45 minutes. It's like those are the kind of things that make me sad, because it's like, man, like
it's so great right now.
You already see it, right? Yeah. You already see it. Like the bar to entry for like fishing, was always fairly low. Like you can catch a fish with like a string and a stick, so to speak. Not now.
Oh no.
Oh man, you have to have this sticker and this stamp, and your license is $47 and your catch record card. And I'm like, you just took that away from so many people. There's so many like inner city kids or people, whatever, that like they don't have $130
To go catch a fish they
buy
can't
a
eat. Yeah.
license and then exactly. To catch a fish they can't eat. Don't eat it either. By the way,
exactly.
you're downstream
Yeah, this is just
from
catching.
Hanford,
Exactly.
dude, or you're
This is just
downstream
catching.
Yeah, this is just catching. This is the joy of catching. We don't eat them. Throw them back. Just don't touch it. Put a rubber glove on. Just don't touch it.
Yeah, I mean, and then again, another one you can go into is then just also the difference in our population decline. So that's where AI coming in is probably what we need, because you're just going to have to be humans. So then it's like back to what holds value, and it's scarcity of an asset or demand for that asset, right? And I think that's kind of what I've been trying to forecast as much as possible out 10, 20 years of like what creates that. And I think it's going to come back to being able to do the face-to-face again. Like I think that will be a pendulum swing that people appreciate, because you don't need the information as much anymore. Because you're going to eventually get to the point where you're like, geez, I just got 3 of the same exact thing because AI wrote all 3. All right, I'm going to go meet Keith. I'm going to go meet Jordan. I'm going to go meet Brennan. What does this look like? And so it's just really hard to aggregate that much wealth at the top and then have it end up well.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one.
It's definitely one of those things where I think I've started to live, if I give any advice anymore, I start to live very in the present.
Yep.
And very small and near, right? And maybe if there's some light that comes out of this conversation today is just like, have those conversations, go meet that person for a beer,
Yes,
enjoy a lunch tomorrow, take your kid to that fishing hole that you might want to, just because for me, that is what has really actually come to the forefront is, yes, I have some worry. I have some anxiety. I have some trouble sleeping or I'm wrestling around with like, am I making good decisions or not? But all of that lead me back to controlling what I can't control and letting go of what I can't control. And when I come at it with that approach, it's okay. I'm, having dinner with my folks this weekend. I'm taking my kid on a date night. I'm going to go fishing. I'm going to do the things and kind of let the cards fall where they fall.
yeah,
And I think for the first or the last probably 2 decades of my life was sacrificing today for the good of tomorrow and telling myself a story that like, it's okay for me to like work extra hard and burn this decade of my 30s because I'm going to massively appreciate that in my 50s, right? Yeah. And now I'm going, man, probably the 50s might be a crapshoot. Do you kind of want to live for today a little bit? you know?
It was the best thing. I started January. I was like, all right, 3 meetings a week in person was what my goal is. And so I've been able to hold it so far where I'll just reach out and be like, look, do you want to grab a coffee, a beer, a lunch, or something? And it's been the most life-giving part of what we've done, because you sit behind a computer so much and you're making these decisions in vacuums, and it's like it's hard to be super present when you're in that a majority of the time.
Yeah.
And so now it's almost like, how do you create that space? And yes, what I've found is I'm more productive now than I was before, when I thought I was being really productive. Yeah. And so now I got to do better about date nights. I think that's a good example to take of yours as well. But I think that back to meeting with people, nobody's busy. Trust me, I know how much I have on my plate, and I know people that have more than I have on my plate. You can fit it in.
Yeah.
It just becomes that priority that you make in your life to make that a priority. Because to your point, I don't think I'm fearful of it, but I think tomorrow's uncertain.
Yeah.
And I think you can adopt it. There's some excitement. I think there's one of the fastest growing changes we're going to see. And I think sometimes this could be one of those few times where rushing into battle could be the wrong thing to do right now. Mm-hmm. It's almost like sit back, be prepared, learn, build those relationships, and be ready to go when that opportunity strikes, because it will. I think it's going to create those opportunities. It'll just be different than it looked before.
And learn to do things with your hands.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
And we should just put on like a tool shop.
Yeah, man. Learn to
take one of your flips. Dude. Take one of your flips and just do an opening class.
Learn to create something with your mind and build it in reality. I think some of that is just, like I said, it's a lost art, but I think it gives purpose and meaning, but also it's like gives you some confidence, and I think it gives you some like self-esteem, and that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to instill in my kids, and even like the people that I'm coaching and stuff with nowadays is like, hey, let's focus on what we can affect, and then let's get really good at the things that a lot of people are not getting good at right now. Right? Yeah. Having conversations, reading a room, like understanding behavior.
What would your top 3 things be that you kind of advise on? to get really good at right now?
Well,
Or did you just list those 3? Those are good ones.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Those are good ones.
Yeah,
or just restate the 3 you said, because I think those are good ones.
Communication is, I think, at its all-time high right now. Not that it's never maybe been low, but like your ability to communicate with people and navigate scenarios, situations, people, negotiate, articulate yourself, listening, that kind of like, that's a skill set that I think is at an all-time high, because I don't think that skill set ever goes away, like we were saying. And it's something that maybe I probably didn't put as much, and then like thinking strategically. And I think these things are kind of lumped together, but like really putting things to the test, like really saying like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this doesn't happen? What if something that I'm not even thinking of happens? What could those things be? And I think that goes back to like, you're talking about meeting people in person and talking. And like, that's something that I've seen before that I would say like just as an example, like the last 2 or 3 businesses I started, I championed fairly solo or with the conversations and advice with the 2 or 3 people involved. And that's something I wouldn't do at all tomorrow. Yeah. Like if tomorrow I was going to launch a new venture or a new business, I would want to have 30, 40, 50 conversations. I would want to have conversations with people like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think of it? Like really bouncing ideas around and getting strategic about your thoughts and looking for pit holes. Because before, I think maybe I thought I was too smart or that I had it figured out.
Worst case, you'd outwork it if it happened.
I didn't need like a ton of advice or a lot of, because what happens too when you go out and seek advice is I think that when you seek advice from people that you have good relation with, they will shoot holes and they will push you not because they don't love you, because they do love you. Yeah. And they're like, I don't know, Jordan, that sounds like a dumb idea to me. What if this happens? Or I'm not really sure if that works. Like, what are you going to do if, and before I didn't want to hear it. Right. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I just thought like, they're going to just be negative. And now I'm like, give me your negative thoughts on this. give me your pitfalls.
Tell me every reason I shouldn't do this. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like that's really where my heart and like where my focus is right now is just like, communication, intentionally putting myself in a position to interact with human beings, which is something that's been out of my wheelhouse for a while. Like I had to do so much of it unintentionally that if I had the opportunity, I would definitely choose not to. I know. And now I'm like, you need to choose to lean into this. You need to choose to make connections, have more conversations, meet more people. Yeah.
It just, pays dividends. It's one of those ones. Not even business dividends, like personal, just spiritual. It's just a good.
The other thing I would say is this. It's there's always like 2 sides to every kind of thought or every story. But I feel like a lot of what we talked about today can seem cynical and can seem negative. And I'm having a lot of conversations with people where it's like they almost give up, or they get to the point of like, why even try when like there's so many question marks. Someone can change the rules of the game and like you can end up worse off in 5 years than you were now. It can underlyingly give you the reason to not invest, to not start, to not take risk. But I think that the cool thing is the flip side of the coin for me is like, well, it also gives you all the reasons too.
Correct.
Because who gives a shit? 90% of people are going to fail the next 10 years. You
might as well try now.
Might as well try something cool, right? Or who cares? Because not doing anything or giving using it as an excuse to hesitate or not take action or to play it safe is just as dangerous now as almost taking the risk.
I think it's more dangerous now.
So it's like, for me, it's also been freeing. It's like, well, let's roll the dice a little bit. Let's come up with some cool ideas and let's make some cool stuff happen. So that to me is where I get more invigorated and back in having some excitement for the game, is because I'm like, you know what? I'm truly playing the game maybe now for the first time in a really long time, regardless of the outcome.
Correct. I feel like I am too. I can't put it on the outcome. And I think I'm back to yours. It's just this day-to-day enjoyment now of solve. It doesn't mean it's easy by any means. There's still shitty days, but like, it's like all I've been working through now are workflows. What can I automate? What can we do? What am I spending all my time on? And so it's just like my last 3 months, I've just done that. And it's like, wait a second, I should have done this. And so I'm plugging in AI or a partner or delegating or just getting rid of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like this game of not necessarily even just uber efficiency, but it's amazing how when you clear that clutter, like you could think, you could breathe, you could see those things again. Mm-hmm. And I think rising gas prices, cost at the grocery store, all of that is designed to distract and make you never see that. Mm. So then it puts it a survival piece of like, we just need to keep going to get this done.
Yeah.
And then once I get past that, that's when I'll pause
That's
and I'll
when
look.
I'll take the
That's when I'll-
time.
and
That's
it's like,
when I'll do the thing. Yeah.
I'd almost argue go the opposite way. Take
Right.
the time now.
Do it now. Yeah.
Take the time now to breathe. Then go attack those things. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just so counterintuitive to what I was kind of like how I was
I would
brought
agree.
up.
I would say that's a good phraseology for it. It's counterintuitive. It's been playing the game a lot more strategically. What I would have said strategically with the intent of holding on and not losing
Yep.
and making some good decisions to go in the future. Now I'm playing the game really much more for the love of the game,
Yeah.
regardless of consequence.
Yeah.
And that's super scary.
That's super scary.
And I know that there's people that they're listening. If you just heard me say that, like play the game for the love of the game, regardless of consequence, people would be like, "That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's really stupid advice."
Yeah, that's what
Keith."
Brennan
Like,
just said. So
That's
that makes sense.
Yeah, I saw him mouth it. He's like, "What,
Idiot.
idiot! Should have gone into podcasting."
The whole time. Yeah, I think that's the hard one. It's not that you don't have goals. Like that's what I would add to that. You have goals. You still want to achieve stuff, but I think it's just about how you approach and go about it. I just don't think it's an environment to rush into anything. Like, and it's just one that I think you're approaching it the right way. It's not circumstances like I don't care about anything else. Like, because that's how I look at mine. It's like, no, I still have stuff to do. I still have stuff to clean up. I still have stuff to fix. But for the first time, I'm strategically thinking how that all fits and helps me move forward. And I think that's been the biggest aha for me and it's not because I put a goal to do X.
Yeah.
It's because now I'm watching how it's like the Matrix where he slows down and watches the bullets fly by his head. It feels a little bit more like that now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good analogy or not yet, but it feels more like that where I'm like, wait a second. I've
You're
seen that
watching this
before.
all play out
I've
in
seen
slow
that before.
motion. Yeah.
I've seen that before. I've seen them react like that. I've seen this. And it's just like, wait a second. Okay, let's slow this thing down. I don't know why I'm racing so fast to the end. We know what the end is. Let's pause. Let's go. Hey, I had to pick Logan up at 11:30. So I took a break in the middle of my day from 11:30 to 1:30, grabbed lunch, talked about life. Like, why haven't I done that for the last
Paid $80
decade?
for sushi.
Yeah. We don't even talk about that one. That got expensive. Support local. Supporting local.
Well, and I think, again, it brings me back to everybody has their own path. But if you're listening to this podcast, I think that the idea and the concept behind Chess Not Checkers is to have some of these conversations and with some of our guests is just like, but you get to pick and decide your own game of chess. Right? Like
Exactly.
that to me is the freeing thing
Exactly.
right there. If you're listening right now, it's just like, just decide the game that you want to play.
Yeah.
And I think for me, for a long time, I let people outline the game I was playing in the sense I just worried about how to play it
Yeah.
because the rules were fixed. And now I'm like, man, there's no rules to this game. The game is what I make of it. Right. So I get to now be strategic about what I choose to do and not do and how I'm going to do it because I think time will tell.
Yeah.
But we're all in this for a ride that I don't think any of us know what's coming.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think there's some freedom in that.
I think so. Yeah. That's going to be a fun ride. I'll tell you that much.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, I think that's it for today.
Yep.
All right, you guys. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Also, like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.